understanding, put up with the most demanding situations. I hear the work with the name Doc Miser. I think of a person who's supportive, nurturing, loving, and patient. I wish we had a great big trophy we could give, but I hope you all join me in giving this with all our deepest respect and our utmost love. Did you get it? Okay. Doc Miser, yeah. Doc, that's the name. I used to be embarrassed all the time introducing him to my friends. Someone's named after one of the 7 dwarfs. And I thought, he could really be named almost after every one of them. You think, well, maybe not bashful, but sleazy, or sleazy. And then there's happy, and I figured you all would come up with that one. And what's that one with the big floppy ears? Our favorite. But his mom liked Doc best, so that's how he got that name. And Laura said something. While I'm thinking about it, she called. She said, "Would you speak and make up, tell some of the stories?" Because I've been talking when he first started out, 36 years ago. She said, "You have to have some good stories." I said, "Well, I got a lot of them." So I sat down on a brand new computer and I started typing these. And I had a big long list, about 20 pages, nice stories. So I got here tonight. And she says, some people have been telling me about you, and she says, there's a few things, we got to make some ground rules here. So you can't tell any stories that are kind of like adult nature, or don't tell any stories that, might be a bad influence to children, and definitely don't tell anything that might be offensive to church people. So, I said, okay, well, I start going through the list and check that off. Well, that's adult, that'll be offensive. And that'll be offensive to church people, that'll be offensive to church people, that'll be offensive to God, that'll be offensive to church people. So I went through the list, and there was one story, but I made a solemn vow to him about 35 years ago. I would never tell anybody about him and those sheep. So I let that one out. And then Laura said about him that he graduated from Georgia veterinary school. I thought it was always Oscar Mayer School of Veterinary Medicine. I heard him sing his theme song one time. My baloney got a first name, but his baloney's first name was Trigger. And we used to have a thing back in the old days. We were all poor, we couldn't afford fancy meals and all that stuff. And I had come in one day and I stopped up at the hospital, and everybody's kind of down in the dumps. I'm wondering, what happened? He said, well, we had a few things go wrong here today. One woman said, she said, I had this real nice cockatoo, and brought it up here just to get regular shots, and something happened, passed away, lost it. I said, well, that's how things go. There's another guy sitting there, and I said, what happened to you? He said, well, I had just brought my pet goat up. I don't know what happened, just brought it for regular shots, and something happened, something went wrong, and passed away. But that's the way things go. So after a while, I move out of here and stop down the house and say hello to Izzy, and I go home. I walk in the house, and it smells good, she's there cooking, and well, that's pretty good. What do you have for dinner? She said, venison. Whoa, where'd you get the venison? She said, well, Doc, about deer. It wasn't much of a deer, it was a little small deer, about the size of a goat. I said, no, I'm out of here. She said, wait a minute, we got some chicken. I said, no, I'm out. So, since I can't tell a story about the sheep, I'm out of here.
We got to know Doc as a veterinarian because it wasn't long after we arrived in Virginia, and Doc had come down and taken care of an animal, and we paid him in cash. Being new to an area, figure they don't know you, you don't know them, so you pay them in cash. And a few nights later, my appendix broke, and I had to go to the hospital. We get to the hospital, and they wouldn't have some idea what the hospital sounded like. I'm laying in the hall on a stretcher with appendix broken, hurting, and I hear all this going on. But I survived. But worst of all is the next day, into my room in a wheelchair comes Doc Mazur. And if you've ever had your appendix hurt, you can imagine how bad it is. And here he comes in a wheelchair, so that cracks me up. And then he gets this great big silly grin on his face once again, where he just achieved a wonderful thing. And the next day he just happened to have something in the area that he had to stop in again. But I guess that was the big start of a great friendship. And I hope that each and every one of you should ever have a friend would ever wind up with friends as near and as dear as Dr. Hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Lois. That really was a touching story, and makes me think back about one of the more touching points of my life, because as probably all of us, or most of us have had, Doc has taken care of my creatures, both great and small, and one of those happened to be a cat I had grown up with as a child. And before I had met Doc, this cat actually had come down with cancer, and my local vet said that he could not operate on the cat because it was much too serious for him. At that point in time, I begged and pleaded him to come up with an answer for me because I wasn't going to let this cat pass away. Well, he recommended a specialist out in Potomac, Maryland. I ended up going spending a couple $1,000 just on the cat to save this cat's life. Well, the vet at that time, they did save her, they did operate, they gave her 3 to 8 months maximum to live. They never had a cat live longer than that with the same situation she had. I guess, close to half a year later, I started working for Doc, and the cat started getting serious again. So, under Kathy's suggestion, I went ahead and brought her to Doc. And Doc took a look at her and said, even though I said, Doc, I know that she's probably going to pass away, what do we do? He's like, pass away nothing. And he said, this cat's perfectly fine. Just a little bit of something here, a little bit of something there, we'll have her patched up. While I'm waiting outside of the surgery room, because I work there, I was allowed to be close. Kathy has her hands up over the window because I'm trying to see in, she won't let me. Doc, doing a surgery that I know took a couple hours at this other vet, within probably 15 to 20 minutes time, had set her up, patched her up, and sent her on home. This occurred one more time.
We got some horses, and lo and behold, I called the nearest veterinarian, and this long drink of water comes toting on up, carrying his bag. It was Doc Mauser. I told my wife then, I says, I remember him when he made an interview to go start in business with Dr. Wolf down in Arlington. That's a lot of years. I don't know how many it is. But Doc and I, to this day, have never had an argument. I don't know whether he's ever been mad at him, but he's never let me know. He might be slick like that, I don't know. But he's been one great man. I remember back in the 60s, my kids were just very young. Doc done his operating in the house or in the yard. It was too big to take in the house, he done it in the yard. So one weekend we get in there, we have this big mare. Doc says she has a mortified colt. So we proceed. You talked about his finesse in operating. I can vouch for it. I've been there several times when he's done it. He starts opening this mare. He gets the uterus, the center out, he gets the foal out. Well, this foal looks like beef stew when you bring it out. All this stuff running back into the mare and all this stuff. So he gets everything done, put it back together. So, easy as she is, always hospitable, brings out her lunch. What was it? Beef stew. Well, my oldest daughter was in Head Start in in Head Start, they have show and tell. So she couldn't wait Monday morning. Teacher, I got something I want to tell. I want something I want to tell. She says, well, Mary, come up to the front. All of you may know her. It's Pumpkin that know her. So she gets up there and she tells the teacher, says, well, we operated on a horse Saturday. And our veterinarian come out and had cold stew for lunch. I get a call real quick from the school. What are you doing giving this child cold stew for? So we had to explain to her what happened. So I'll tell you, but that mare went on and she had foals, what, 2 years later, Doc? So he can do it all. I know that. Then there was a couple times, went riding several times together. So we all went down to the Majewski's down in Lorton there, all of us together. Me on a big old white mare, my wife on her horse. Doc got a good laugh at me. The first stream I come to, my big old mare lost her foot. Down in the water I went. Doc, I says, okay, Doc, he who laughs last, laughs the hardest. So everybody, we went on a ride, we tried